I met Oprah Winfrey one time.
Did you? In Australia?
Yeah.
Really?
I touched her. I hugged her.
Give us the goss.
Yeah, I was really lucky. She came to do a speaking thing that she does. Yeah. And I was working in a business, and my boss managed to get us VIP tickets, which meant that a group of us got to go and meet her. And it was amazing.
Is she what she seems like?
Yeah, she was lovely. She was beautiful. You know, so we got to walk up on the stage, like stand next to her, have a look. You put your arm around her. I've got a photo of me like kind of squished into all of her hair because she had this like amazing big hair. And you know, you could say something to her or ask her a question, and then you would tell on, which was nice. But didn't have a question for her. I was just, you know,
just in awe.
Yeah, quite pleased to meet her.
But
it's cool. That's my fun fact.
Welcome to Our Student Edge, where we're answering your questions about student life and life in general. Hi, Lois.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We have had a few Student Edge members write in and ask us, how do they leverage their casual work experience into their first real job once they've finished uni and after they get their degree?
Yes.
And we're asking you, maybe because you can then share a bit about yourself.
Sure.
But yeah, how do they do that? How do we do that?
I am a HR professional. That's what I do. I've been in the HR for a very long time. I run a business currently called Life at Work. So we do HR support for small to mid-sized organisations. Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, you know, when I'm looking at an advertisement, and we've had, you know, people applying for a particular role, you're screening CVs, you're looking through a lot of CVs, and you're not necessarily looking at CVs for a very long time. So, you know, I think whatever you can do to showcase your skills and how it aligns to the role is really useful. And that can, you know, you can do things, just say you're applying for a particular role, you can think about what that role involves. So, you know, what are some of the skills that they're looking for, and think about how your casual work or whatever work or volunteer work, whatever you've been doing, how you might find some kind of alignment or sync between the two. And I think about things like, just say you're working in a retail store and you're applying for a role where you might be dealing with people, all kinds of people, and most of us are going to be working in a role where we're dealing with people. You know, you could talk about stakeholder management or ability to deal with people from all walks of life, you know, and you can sort of start to showcase some of that stuff. It takes a bit of thinking sometimes because you've got to unpack an ad and you've got to unpack the skills that you've learnt in your volunteering or in your casual work.
Going back to what you said about unpacking an ad,
yes.
I remember when I was at uni, and this rarely happened at uni, I never really had any lecturers who kind of told us about like job ads and how to apply. No. It's not like, it's just not a skill.
They don't teach you, yes.
No,
yes,
and I kind of wish that they did. So I'm like, I have all these skills, but I don't actually know how to translate them into the real world.
That's right.
Especially when you haven't got, say you haven't done an internship or you haven't had any work experience, like it's hard. You're like, oh my gosh, how do I stand out?
Yes, that's right. Tell me about, if you don't mind talking about
it,
tell me about your first job before you're in kind of professional.
Oh my gosh. My first job was when I finished school. Yeah. I worked at Zambreros.
Yes, great.
For a little while. That was my first job. I hated hospitality.
Yeah, sure. That's how you learn whether you like things or you don't like things.
Yeah, like I personally just was so bad at it. Yeah. Because people are like really particular about their food, as they should be. No disrespect, but I found it really nervous. Like I was like, oh my gosh, what if I give them the wrong thing? What if it brings up an allergy? Like it just was very nerve-wracking to me. So in that sense, I preferred retail because even if you sell someone the wrong thing, their health isn't compromised.
Okay, so when you think about working in Zambrero, what were some of the bits that were skills that you felt that you were learning in that role? And I have a few that come to mind.
So I think some of the skills I was learning, I think teamwork, like you said, is a big part of any role that you're in, professional or not. Also just like learning how to use different technologies.
Yes.
Even if they're not technologies I used afterwards, I think I learned a lot of that. Yeah. It was my first job, so a lot of it was also just like, I'm trying to think back, like there's teamwork with your team, but also like customer relations. Absolutely. Like managing expectations, like delivering product at the end of the day, product burrito product.
Yeah. So can you already see how some of these things are translating to a professional role? So if you said, okay, I've worked at December and I worked there from this date to this date, and this was my particular role. Skills learned, teamwork, learned to work effectively with a team. That varied from shift to shift because sometimes that can happen. Customer service, making sure that my customers were well looked after, I delighted customers, they got what they ordered, that kind of customer service piece. So managing key stakeholders, making sure the customers were satisfied. So you're pulling your kind of things together around what did I actually learn from that and how does that apply to a professional environment? When you were applying for this role you're in now, what did you think about that when you were kind of making that? How did you put your CV together?
I pulled from different bits of experience. In my last role, I was a journalist.
Yes.
So
nice synergy,
synergy because I'm a writer and content producer, if you know.
Yep.
So I think I pulled about the fact that I wrote for a living, but I also had experience in like video, social media, video editing. So whilst those things aren't the primary sort of duties of my current role, they were complementary factors, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I think as well, that those were kind of like the day-to-day like duties that I would do, but I think because Student Edge deals with students, I put down my relevant experience with students.
Yes.
So every year I volunteer and I go on a week-long school camp where I can.
Yes.
So I note down that I had experience with students, like I'm, spoke to students, I'm part of like that community, if you will. So I had experience with like knowing what they wanted and what they're interested in, which could translate into my writing, I think.
Yes. And so when you're putting your cover letter together, putting your CV together, looking for those things that you've done previously that align to what this job ad is telling you is very important. And I'll give you an example. I spent probably 2 hours yesterday screening for a role. I was looking at applications, and there was probably 80 applications for one of the roles that I was looking at, and like you're spending a matter of like seconds looking at some applications, right? So when you're opening a CV, you are scanning very quickly. When you're opening a cover letter, you're scanning very quickly around. These are the words that are in the job ad that I've asked for. I want experience of this. I want this type of qualification. You want to be able to see that very clearly on a CV, right? So whether that's bolding it, whether that's putting that information first, whether it's putting it in a cover letter where you're dot pointing and you can actually see very clearly, qualification in this, experience in this, whatever it might be.
Do you suggest doing the thing? And my mum actually gave me this tip. She was like, use the same words that they
Yes,
in the
perfect,
job ad
absolutely.
in your resume
Because it's almost like a bias thing, right? Because your brain is looking for those pieces of information. And then when you see it, it's kind of like, yes, connecting the dots, wonderful, put you on the shortlist. And you've obviously got to be able to back that up, but it definitely helps you to get through to that next kind of round.
If you don't mind me asking, what was your first casual job before you became the corporate woman that you are?
I went in a library, so
that is so cool.
It was really
I'm
cool.
a huge reader, so
it was great. I loved it. I was a shelver, so I got to shelve the books, and then I ended up on the front desk, so dealing with checking in and out of books and whatever. But I loved it. It was a great place to work. And then through uni, I did lots of different things. I worked at the football in the selling pies, in the caravan things that they had then, and I've worked in hospitality at the soccer in the VIP rooms, pouring the coffees and doing that kind of stuff. I worked in retail for lots of years, so I worked in retail stores and then managed stores. So that was actually really good. And I think if you get the opportunity in retail to do a bit of people leadership stuff, it's very useful. That was helpful for me in demonstrating that I could lead a team. Because I'd led teams in retail and I could practice my skills there and then I could apply it.
So I guess if there are any uni students listening to this who are thinking oh my gosh, I work in retail and it's not where they want to go
totally.
And they're feeling maybe a bit discouraged thinking about what they're studying and what they're working in currently in retail. There are still ways that they can utilize those skills.
100%. 100%. So I use that to practice my leadership skills. If you think about it, you are learning to follow directions. We would have guidebooks around how the store needed to be laid out. We would have customer service targets. We had to have sales targets. So all of that stuff, you can 100% utilize that to demonstrate how you're reliable as an employee and you can follow directions. You can lead a team. You can work very collaboratively with other people. So I didn't have any trouble really getting a job straight out of uni. It was actually quite fine, and my experience had really just been, library, retail, selling pies, that kind of stuff. So, it was fine. I didn't know what I wanted to do out of uni. It's one of those tricky things, I think. So I did psychology, which was very interesting. Did undergrad and an honours in psych, and I knew that I was going to go to the UK and do a working holiday. So I finished uni, and then
as all
yeah, we should do it. I think it's very important to travel, so I did that. But I knew that was happening. But I wanted to earn some money, and so I got a job, and I was an accounts assistant for a steel company. So nothing to do with psychology, but it was fine. And I got the job, and I was there on a contract, with the knowledge that I was going to go. So did that, and then when I came back, I just picked up some retail work, but that company heard that I was back in town and contacted me. So I'd spoken to the HR manager before I left, just because I was thinking about studying HR when I came back, and I said to her, "What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? I'm thinking about studying it. Do you think it's a good career, etc." So I was kind of probably in their mind. So when I came back and they heard I was back, they offered me a job and they made me HR roles.
It's interesting that you say that HR wasn't the thing that you thought you studied coming out of high school, because everyone that we've had on our student edge so far has said the same thing. Like everyone, Jason said that he was studying something else. Me and B said that, B was like, I thought I was going to be like an actor or a jazz player.
There you go.
I just was studying whatever I liked, because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so many of my friends as well, like coming out of high school, they don't know.
No, and I think that's fine. And I think gone are the days where you're going to do something forever, right? We're never going to do the same thing forever. And if you think about it, I've gone on this pathway. It's still HR, but now I'm a business owner, right? So you kind of take this pathway and do different things. I would be more than happy to pivot into something else later down the track. You never know. So I wouldn't worry about it. I think if you've got an opportunity to go to uni, I think it's great. It's a great time, and it's never wasted, whatever you study. But I wouldn't worry too much about it being the be all and end all. So you can do what you want with your life. Right?
And even if you're not in the same industry anymore, those skills are still transferable.
Absolutely. Yeah. You never lose them. Even the ability, I think, about studying psych, you do a lot of report writing, you do a lot of research and analysis, and that's been useful for me in terms of dealing with data and managing, people data and knowing your trends and those types of things.
So for our audience, can you give them 5 takeaways maybe on how they can write their resume or their CV so that they can incorporate some of the things that they've done, even if it isn't necessarily within the field that they're trying to get work in?
Yeah. So link it to the job ad. So think about what the job ad is asking. Make sure that you're reflecting that in your CV or in your cover letter. And if that means rearranging your order of events and kind of when you've done particular things, if you want to put them first, that's totally fine. It's okay to bold things. I think it's completely fine to bold bits throughout your CV. Third thing, I would be thinking about, what are the skills that I have learned in this role? Like if you stand back and think about it, because sometimes you think I'm just working, serving food or whatever. There are skills that you're learning all the time. So stepping back and thinking, what have I actually learnt on my skills? And then how does that align to this particular job ad? I'm not sure I'm going to have 5 for you.
That's fine. That's so good. Say I'm an accounting major.
Yes.
Maybe I had some accounting experience, doing some work experience in 2021.
Yes.
But it's now 2024 and I'm looking for a job.
That's right.
I should put that first.
Yes, put it first. Absolutely. Yeah. And even if it's on your very first page of your CV, if you do a little table or something that kind of shows some of your work, you could pop that first in there or highlight it, bold it in there, and then put it first in your CV. The other thing that's really important, and for anyone that's applying through Seek, this is really important, is have a look at your Seek profile and make sure that the role that it says that you are doing is actually what you want it to say. Because when you look at a set of Seek applications, it will tell you the person's name and it will tell you what their role is, right? And that's reflective of your Seek profile. So if you are applying for a job as an accountant and it comes up and it says you're a volunteer at the RSPCA, that's obviously very good that you're doing that, but that's whoever's looking at your application wants to see that you've got accounting experience if you have it.
I have heard this as well, actually, that you're not the first person to tell me. Someone else told me that because they've constantly kept their Seek profile advertised,
Yes.
they got headhunted a few times.
Yes, you can. Yes, so you can change your Seek profile to looking or not looking. So you can definitely do that, and you can set the level of visibility. So when you post an ad on Seek, you get a set of credits that you can use to either push the job out to people or to review people's CVs. So if you've got an active CV, make sure it's current. Sometimes people will look at it that way. And Seek will do things like it will job match in terms of a job and person's skills.
Yep.
So when you're searching, the person with the skills that matches the most will come up first. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more clips like this, make sure to subscribe or give us a like.